A unique day in American history, a day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival. Earth Day, a day dedicated to enlisting all the citizens of a bountiful country in the common cause of saving life from the deadly byproducts of that bounty, the fouled skies, the filthy waters, the littered earth. The gravity of the message of Earth Day came through. Act or die.
Walter Cronkite in 1970, 50 years ago today, that's how he led off his CBS News. And, well, Jerry Pickering, you probably remember that. We all tuned in Uncle Walter at nighttime, didn't we, for the CBS Evening News? That was a pretty dire message.
Well, yes, it was, Todd, and good morning to you, and good morning to everybody on this 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
Our conversation with Jerry brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. So it was a big deal at IUP, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was really a week celebration at IUP. We had all kinds of events. We had teach-ins, we had movies, and we had bands in the afternoon and into the evening. It was really a celebration. There was a lot of positive energy and a lot of commitment by the people, not only at IUP, but across the country. 20 million people were involved, which represented about 10% of the population in the United States.
Wow. So take us back those 50 years. Who were some of the people who were involved in helping plan the event?
Well, one of the main persons that got it started was Senator Gaylord Nelson in Wisconsin. He saw the energy that was on the campuses at that time, particularly, remember, this was the time of the Vietnam War. There was a lot of activity across campuses across the country. And there were people who wanted to use this energy in a positive way. There were a lot of things going on at that time, and maybe the questions we have, a couple of questions. Why Earth Day? Why then? And why on the 22nd? Mm-hmm. You have to remember that in 1962, Rachel Carson wrote The Silent Spring, which brought a lot of awareness to the use of DDT and the loss of a lot of our wildlife, particularly, for example, the bald eagle. We also had a huge oil spill in Santa Barbara, California. And if you remember, the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland actually caught on fire because of the bad pollution.
Yeah, I remember it. And certainly those were things that sort of set up warning signs for the entire Earth and started this entire movement. Now, on campus at IUP, you, of course, were a faculty member at the time, and so I'm sure there were some student leaders and faculty leaders who got together and said, let's become a part of this big movement.
Yes, there was a faculty members and students, and the only one I can remember I worked with was former Dr. Harvey Holtz of the sociology department. He and I, as well as other faculty and students, really had a busy week of activities to bring awareness to the students and as well as to the community. Mm-hmm. And to educate. It was a big educational activity to educate people as to what was going on to the environment and the need to do something.
Our IUP campus looks so different now even than it did 3 or 4 years ago, let alone 50 years down the road. Take us back to that time. What was it like at IUP in terms of the campus environment and the environment around the world, the actual environment here in Indiana County?
Well, the campus was much smaller, of course. I was a new faculty member. I came in 1969, so I was only 28 years old and, well, a young whippersnapper, so to speak. And the students were very much involved. Remember, only roughly 6 months later, we had the shooting at Kent State. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of energy on campus. Students were involved in a variety of things.
And one of the things that they were involved in, of course, was the Vietnam War was going on, and we know of the student-led movements about the war, and in association with that, and people might not see the association, but that sort of activist way of approaching the Vietnam War spilled over into the Earth Day celebration too, did it not?
Absolutely. People saw the energy of the students and their activity and how they were involved in wanting to have a voice And this was a major positive voice and it turned out it really caused changes in our country and around the world. Remember, in 1970, the EPA was developed. Shortly thereafter, we had the national or the occupational safety and health law. We had the National Environmental Education Act, Clean Water Act, Endangered Species Act. So at that time, there were a lot of things that happened shortly after Earth Day, and it was bipartisan. Both Democrats and Republicans were directly involved, and President Nixon was the president at that time. So a great deal of legislation was passed to protect what we call the global commons: air, water, and land.
Put us back on campus that day. Do you remember specific events that happened on that day that still stand out in your memory?
Well, one of the events was the flying of the Earth Day flag. Students at IUP made 2 Earth Day flags, and one of these is flying today in the front of the courthouse on the flagpole. And I want to direct everybody's attention to the flag as they go by. It is a green and white flag. The green represents the pure air, green land, and environmental action. And in the place of the stars is kind of an oval circle with a line through it. That's came from a combination of the E for ecology and O for organisms. And this was accepted and kind of a symbol of the Earth Day activities was the Earth Day flag. I remember also on campus perhaps showing the movie Soylent Green, if you remember that, a very unique science fiction type of movie.
I don't. No, I'm sorry. That science fiction was never my thing.
Well, the premise of Soylent Green, it was in the future, and everybody was eating this green liquid, looked kind of like a spinach smoothie. And when people would die, before they died, they would get a chance to sit in a nice room and see the earth as the way it was. And it turned out, I'm not going to let people know what the Soylent Green was, but I recommend it's a classic with Charleston Heston.
Okay.
And it kind of said what the future might be if we destroy our environment and where is the food source.
We're talking with Jerry Pickering this morning. The first Earth Day was 50 years ago today, and IUP had a very big role in the way that it was being marked here in Indiana County. Was Dr. Pratt the president of the university at the time?
Yes, he was. He was, I think that may have been his last year at IUP.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if he left in 69 or 70. I did meet Dr. Pratt. That might have been his last year. I just don't recall at this time.
Yeah, I was just wondering how the university administration looked at everything that was happening and the kind of support that they were able to offer.
It was a very positive. We had pretty much a green light on everything. We had activities at the Union. We had them at the outside at what was then Flagstone Theater, where we would have speakers as well as concerts outside throughout the week. So it was a very exciting, positive, looking ahead type of an environment.
Jerry, as you look at the university now and the environment around Indiana County, but specifically I'm thinking of the university and the new efforts to address environmental issues, and particularly the area, basically, if you go in back of the tennis courts and you make your way toward Rose Street, there's a really, really big movement going on there in an environmental, sort of a wetlands situation, isn't there?
Yes, that's part of the Allegheny Arboretum, which is the entire IUP campus. The Arboretum is hoping to develop what is called Confluence Discovery Park, which will be a multi-use educational facility for our community and region. It'll involve stream restoration, stormwater management, trails, outdoor classroom facilities, visitor center, and it will, of course, be a transformational change for our community and the university. We all know what that area has looked like over the many years. It's a brownfield site, kind of a multi-use industrial area, and it would be transformed into a beautiful multi-use green space.
What sort of work has been done since we last visited about that, which was probably about a year ago, wasn't it?
Well, we do have a master plan for that site now, and we are in the early stages of trying to get funding to go ahead and get some engineering and construction documents for phase one. And of course, like everything else, we are in a hold situation.
Yeah. Right now, it's everybody stand in line situation, as there are just all kinds of pressing needs out there, and that one might have to wait a little bit, but it certainly would be good to see something like that done. It's sort of the spirit of Earth Day living on even today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Earth Day catalyzed a lot of positive things. There was a lot of publications came out, such as The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich, The Closing Circle by Barry Commoner, and these publications, as well as many other things, really catalyzed not only all the environmental things, but had a worldwide effect. We had China, for example, adopt a one-child policy. That was greatly as a result of discussions that happened around the first Earth Day.
Yeah. Well, Earth Day, it was 50 years ago, and it continues even today. Today is the 50th anniversary of the very first Earth Day, as we've heard from Jerry, that it was a big event at IUP. And you said it lasted a whole week, huh?
Yes, it did. We had activities going on every day to kind of, educate and catalyze and started people thinking about what the world was that we were living in and things that needed to be changed. And we've seen some positive things happen. Not everything has happened. It's kind of a good, bad, and ugly. We still have challenges regarding population. Our population has gone from roughly 3.7 billion to a little over 8 billion in almost 50 years. So we've doubled the population, and that means the needs of and the pressure on our planet have increased tremendously.
Yeah. And here in Indiana County, of course, you talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly orange streams have been replaced a lot by the mitigation efforts that have really cleaned them up from acid mine drainage. And, well, that is probably something that relates directly to what happened 50 years ago as well, as that movement made its way. I think people underestimate the value of graduating from college, moving on into leadership positions within your county and your city governments, and how positive it can be.
Yes, we have a whole new generation of young people coming up, actually, who are kind of recognizing the need to look at the environment. For example, Greta Thunberg, the young girl who has dominated a lot of the press this last year, but there are a lot of young people are looking at the future and seeing the environmental challenges that they are facing in their generation, particularly with climate change. They're the ones who are going to have to deal with this big change and challenges that are facing our worldwide culture, and it's not going to go away. It's only going to get worse.
He's Jerry Pickering. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd, and I welcome and congratulations for everybody to get involved in trying to make our world a better place, not for only us, but all future civilizations in the worldwide environment.
All right. Have a great day today. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Todd. And I'm going to close with one slogan that we had back then. Think globally, act locally. It applies today as much as it did 50 years ago.
That's a good way to end the program today, too. It's the voice of Indiana today, too.